Joining us today is a gentleman who's done it all in professional wrestling, and I am so excited to have him on. The one and only Brooklyn Brawler, Steve Lombardi. Steve, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be on your podcast and great to share some stories with you.
So Steve, I broke in 1992. It was relatively easy to break in. You joined a wrestling school. What was it like to not only break in the early 80s, but to get your foot in the door with the WWF?
Well, actually, I fell into business. I was actually given wrestling tickets to Madison Square Garden. I used to watch wrestling on TV all the time, and they gave me wrestling tickets, and it was my first live event in Madison Square Garden. The guy next to me actually said, "I could tell this is your first match." I said, "Yeah, how can you tell?" He goes, "I could tell because you're intrigued by the people in the ring." And he goes, "If you want to meet these guys, you go to the Savoy, which is 4 blocks from here. It's a bar where they all go to right after the matches. Just wait till after the show, about 30 minutes later, go to the bar and you'll meet all these wrestlers," which I did. So I met Mr. Fuji, I met George Skolin, I met all the wrestlers, Jimmy Snuka, Bob Orton Jr. Everybody was in there, and I asked them. I asked them questions. I told them it was my first match, and they were like, "Hey, kid, what?" Fuji goes, "We're talking now. Don't bother us. Don't bother us." And then I sat down at the bar. Jimmy Snuka sat right next to me, and he goes, "How you doing?" I go, "Jimmy, I'm really intrigued by the business. I would really like to get into it." He said, "Brother, let me tell you something." He goes, "If you believe it in your heart and you want to be a wrestler, you can do it, but it's got to be in your heart that you really want to do it. If you do it for the money, you probably won't make it." That's exactly what Jimmy Snuka told me.
What year is this, Steve?
I would say 1983-ish. I could be off a year or two.
So how did you go from super fan, just curious about it, to actually getting in the ring?
Okay, so after somebody gave me some free tickets to the Garden, I started going to every Garden show, and I would go into the Savoy afterwards, and I started to get to know the wrestlers, and they got more familiar with me, and I became friends with Arnold Skolin and Snuka. I always got along with from the minute I met him. I actually traveled with him for years and years, and I shared rooms with him. And Arnold Skolin taught Carney, which don't even exist today. He tells Fuji, "This gear's I wants to gear's O into the re is wrestling, be as business." Do you know Carney?
I do, sir.
Yeah. So they laughed, and then Skolin told me, "Hey kid, you want to go into get in the wrestling business? Show up in Shirley, Long Island." He goes, "And we'll see what you got." You know what I mean? So I drove up to Shirley, Long Island. I went to the house show, and then he goes, "Kid, get in the ring with Jimmy Snuka, Ray Stevens. Who else was in there? Mr. Fuji, and there was somebody else in the ring. I can't even remember now. But they made me run from person to person, getting body slammed by everybody. And they were all laughing, you know what I mean? Because they figured they'd beat the shit out of me. So they all left the ring. I go to walk out of the ring. Skolin goes, "No, not you. You stay in the ring." And then he talks Carney to Miss Saito. Remember Saito?
Oh, yeah.
He says to Saito in Carney, go in the ring, and he told him to do something. I didn't understand Carney at the time. And Saito grabbed me with a belly to belly, where he locks one arm and he does it, and he takes me over, and he gives me my first suplex I ever took in my life. And he turns to Skolin and he goes, "Heavy." He's very heavy. And I thought it was a compliment because I was all muscled up, you know what I mean? I was 247 pounds. And I didn't realize till later that it wasn't a compliment. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't helping him. I wasn't helping him. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You're a wrestler. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's like a storybook. My life is a storybook that came true. You know what I mean? So I kept coming, and then he goes to me, "Okay, show up at the next show." I show up at the next show. They put me against S.D. Jones. Remember S.D. Jones?
Of course.
He says, "You got wrestling gear?" I said, "Yes," which I didn't. And S.D. Jones lent me his boots and his tights and all that. I went in the ring with SD Jones. I froze, because I was scared. First time you go in the ring, you get a little nervous and you know what you're doing. So I walked through he got me through it slowly, boom, boom, boom. But it wasn't a great match because I was brand new. So then after that, I just kept going to the Savoy, going to the Savoy, and then eventually Skolin says, show up at the TV tapings. You know what I mean? I showed up at the TV tapings. I was a hang-around. And then all of a sudden, they started throwing me in the ring to do squash jobs. You know what I mean? So I'm going in the ring and I'm wrestling all these top talent, Roddy Piper, Jimmy Snuka, the Iron Sheik. And they're all beating the hell out of me and, to put me in their finishes. But the funny part about it was we filmed 3 weeks of television in one day. So I was taking everybody's finish and walking out fresh right after it. So it was in Ag Hall. You know Ag Hall?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm walking in Ag Hall. Everybody in the building thought I was Superman because I'm taking everyone's finish and I'm still coming out fresh. But meanwhile, the people at home only see it weekly. Right. So they don't see it the same way.